Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and to Ranking Member Lindsay. And I want to associate myself with the remarks of all of my colleagues. You know, Vermont, it's the dairy industry that is absolutely critical to the well-being of our agricultural economy. They really account for 2/3 of the milk supply in the New England market. And also in Vermont, all of us who are not farmers benefit by the custodial connection they have to keeping 80% of our open land open. And our farms need workers, and workers need protections. And everything I've heard from the panel suggests that you agree with that. We've got to fix this, and it's really caught up in the situation at the southern border, and that becomes an excuse not to do anything that can be done concretely that will be beneficial to the agricultural community and agricultural workers throughout the country. You know, in Vermont, it's dairy. I guess in Georgia, you claim it's peaches. We got some pretty good peaches in Vermont, but we'll give you that for purpose of discussion. But the point here is that local agriculture is incredibly important to the well-being of all of our communities. And it is dairy in Vermont, it is perhaps peaches in Georgia, but bottom line, all those farms need the workers, and I appreciate the comments that you've made. And the problem is in Congress, because instead of coalescing around doing something that will be beneficial to the agricultural sector that is part of our local regions, the specter of doing anything that politically can be seen as winning or losing on the whole southern border situation gets in the way of us doing anything that would be beneficial all around the country. So a big issue for us in dairy is that the H2A program is not available, and you got to milk cows 365 days a year. So having seasonal workers as opposed to permanent workers just doesn't work. And you know, in my discussions with our workers, I went to the Open Door Clinic, which is a healthcare facility that was started by some volunteers in Middlebury, Vermont, for many of the agricultural workers. Initially, farmers were somewhat skeptical and apprehensive because there's legal questions that everybody's living with, looking over their shoulder all of the time. But this Open Door Clinic is now embraced by the farmers. It's been a tremendous benefit for the workers. But you know what? It's pretty shocking to me that that has to be a big deal. Shouldn't you be able, in the total plain light of day, go see a doctor for a medical situation? I mean, it's pretty outrageous that the failure of Congress to act to protect people who are doing what we all acknowledge is fundamentally essential work, milking our cows, really acknowledge that it's hard work than dignified work, in that folks who do that, I have to be worried as to whether they'll get picked up because they're getting a medical checkup. I mean, that's really on us. So, you know, my hope is that we will be able to come around together to pass something comparable to what I voted for when I was in the House last year, and that's the Modernization Act. And is there anyone on the panel who would like to just comment, just go down quickly about the benefits of Congress coming together on that bill? And I'll start with you, Ms. Torres, and thank you for all your work over the years.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that. Yes, we've been working on this for 2 decades now, and as you mentioned, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act was incredibly important. I mean, that we really showed on the farm worker movement side that we were negotiating and compromising in good faith. You mentioned the year-round jobs. You know, in the context of legalization for undocumented workers and further protections for H2A workers, we actually compromised on that. We have supported expansion of the year-round guest worker program with a cap, but in the context of the entire program that we discussed. And I want to say for year-round jobs, these are some of the most coveted jobs that farm workers want, because most of the work is seasonal. Workers who are U.S.-based, domestic, citizens, lawful permanent residents want these types of jobs. And so you know, we need to have a conversation in addition to the FWMA, and when we're talking about the adverse effect wage rate, that farm workers need to be making more money, not less.
Okay, thank you. My time is up, but I want to thank the panel and my colleagues. I yield back.